Hello everybody, today I am going to talk about the things in this book. Immune by Philipp Dettmer, who is the leader of the YouTube channel Kurzgesagt. This book is about our immune system. I personally thought this book was very fascinating and it told me a lot of things. I was very interested in this subject, and this book was a lot of help to me understanding our immune systems and such. So what this book is about is, well, as I said, immune systems. Firstly, we can split the immune systems to two groups. Firstly, the innate immune system, and secondly, the adaptive immune system. And firstly, let's talk about the innate immune system. The innate immune systems are the first levels of defenses. There are macrophages, which look a bit blobby and has long arms and stuff. Let's just go with it. It looks more like a blob with long tentacles stuck to it, like that and that. Maybe a bit like that. Still a very bad drawing though. But anyways, there's the macrophage, and also there's neutrophils. In the book, the drawing was a bit spiky. I'm just going to draw a circle with spikes on it. This is a neutrophil, and also there is the dendritic cell. Also very important. It looks a bit like the macrophage. Well, yeah, also a blob with long tentacles and stuff. Much better. And also there's the complement system, which is a part of the innate immune system, but the complement system are made out of proteins, not cells like those. So some dots. That looks about right. The complement system. I'll explain about what does the macrophage do. The macrophages are one of the most important defenders of your bodies. The first level of defense, I would like to think. And what they do is basically what you normally think of when you think of the white blood cell. It basically catches some germs flying around, swimming around, and basically eats it, then dissolves it in acid that the macrophage makes, and uses it for its energy, and sprays the leftovers out so others can use the energy too. Yeah, this is the white blood cell that eats stuff and dissolves it. And also there's now the neutrophil. Macrophages are one of the biggest cells in our body, and very big, like I think it's something like 22 micrometers. Quite big for a cell. Like if you put 5 of them right next to each other, we could see that a bit of a line, because a human eye can see up to 0.1 millimeters, which is 100 micrometers, and these are something like 22 micrometers, as I said. So 5 of them, we might see them, a little bit of a line. We can't see the individuals though. And neutrophils, something like 10 micrometers, I think. And what these do are they are so, as the book said, suicide bombers, crazy suicide bombers. What they do is they are warriors that fight and when in a very bad situation or there are a lot of germs around, they explode themselves and spray the toxic stuff in its body all out and makes a net that germs get stuck into, and the macrophages can come and clean those out. These are these neutrophils. Well, they like fighting so much. We don't know how, but they even fight after they exploded. I don't know how that works though. And these consume a lot of energy, but they get mad very quickly. So let's say I accidentally bump into something like that, and then, well, a sudden impact on my body, so that would it could make the neutrophil mad. And then I was fascinated about this part too. The macrophage hides the attacked scene, the impacted scene, so the neutrophil doesn't attack and then harm our body and use a lot of energy while doing that too. And yeah, macrophage hides the attack scenes in some cases. That's really cool too. And now I'll explain about the complement system. Now, what the complement system does is, well, they are, as I said, are proteins, but now if a germ enters a body, a particular protein in the complement system attaches themselves. I mean, well, something happens, and then some chemical reactions and stuff, they attach to each other and maybe throw something out, and those make another chain reaction too, making the things react to each other and stuff. And then what happens is that some longer proteins make a hole through the germ's outer layer, the skin thingy, and then make a hole in it, then pulls all the insides of the germs out, so the germ can't do germ thingies, and then by that making the germ harmless or killing the germ like that. And now the dendritic cell. Dendritic cells are a part of the innate immune system, but dendritic cells are very related to the adaptive immune system. Now, I'll show you why it's called the adaptive immune system right after I explain all the stuff in it. The dendritic cells. Now, you maybe had a cut or something, and germs come in, and the macrophage eats them, and these explodes them, these rip holes through them and stuff. And what the dendritic cells do is quite similar to what the macrophage does. Well, the macrophages, with those long tentacles, grab the germs and then devour it by using that tentacles thingy and pulling it inside. What these do is, using those long tentacles, by grabbing it, then it rips them apart. Now these dendritic cells brings the germs, are including viruses and the harmful bacteria, and viruses, we call them pathogens. And the dendritic cell rips the pathogens apart and then brings it to the lymphatic systems. The lymphatic system, which is made out of lymph vessels, which are basically the highways of the dendritic cells and T cells and B cells and stuff, where some pathogens run through, maybe some pathogens. And there are lymph nodes too, which are the megacities where the T cells and B cells are living in, basically. And yeah, the adaptive immune system is made out of, well, there's T cells. The drawing was a bit like a blob and then some tentacles, and right in its side, like a bit like that. And this is a helper T cell, and also there's the killer T cell. And they drew it a bit, the tentacles a bit spiky to tell each other. To separate them, how they look. And then there are B cells. In the book they looked a bit like a bean to me. And also there is another cell in the innate immune system which also looked like a bean to me, with a bit of spikes on it. Like that looks like a pathogen. Let's just draw a bean. That's not very beanish, but this is called the natural killer cell. And yeah, this is a B cell. And also, actually, I think they're all. But what these do, they are very important in defending our bodies. Like, well, the dendritic cells brings the pathogen parts, not the whole pathogen parts to, well, also there are virgin T cells, which are basically T cells that aren't helper T cells or killer T cells. They are just T cells that don't do much. And these brings, let's say it's just a germ, and this brings it to a lot of T cells. Well, it brings it to the lymph nodes, which are megacities where T cells and B cells are living in. And well, it brings up pathogen parts while holding it, and tries to find the T cell which has the exact adapting thing to the pathogen, which is basically what that means is that T cell is perfectly matched to fight those pathogens, and then the dendritic cells look around for the T cell, and it finally finds it, and this takes about a week to do. So basically, if it's a little cut or something, the dendritic cells won't do this whole process and make it so it's very inefficient and uses a lot of energy. The innate immune system does this first to consume less energy. But if it's a really hard enemy, a really hard pathogen to defeat, the adaptive immune system comes in. This is all for efficiency of energy. And well, when it finally finds a T cell, that is matchable to that pathogen, what happens is that now it turns into a helper T cell, and then it multiplies very quick. That's why it uses a lot of energy to multiply cells. And now half of them go back to the fighting scene, and by that time the macrophages are tired and don't want to fight much now. Oh, and before that, have you ever had a cut or something and then it felt like that particular part of your body is swelling up and getting hotter? Why that happens is now there's pathogens coming in, so we have to defend it. So the a lot of macrophages in your body, and the complement systems and the natural killer cells and more neutrophils, they just swarm into that fighting scene along with the blood in your body. And then what happens is then the blood and stuff, they just swarm into that fighting scene, the place where you have been cut. So because of the blood, it swells a bit up, because those liquids that come in are blood, which are inside your body, which is very warm. Now it feels more hotter, and yeah, that's why that happens. And well, the macrophages are tired of fighting these, and the helper T cells come in and encourages the macrophages, basically. Well, what they do is they use chemical stuff. Was it hormone stuff? Well, they use chemical messaging stuff to make those macrophages get more angry than before and fight a bit more. That rhymed. Anyways, these now fight more fiercely, and then so you begin to win a little bit more. And now the other half of the helper T cells, they go to the B cell. Now what the B cells do is, well, the T cells have to go through another process, which takes a long time, finding a B cell that matches the pathogen perfectly. Now, these T cells, when they find the B cell that is matchable to this pathogen, now the B cell turns into a plasma cell, which is 2 or 3 times larger than the B cell, but does basically the same thing. And well, what they do now is, well, there's helper T cells around the plasma cell, and the plasma cells multiply quickly, again like the T cells, but a bit differently. These are intended to get a bit mutated. So, well, what these do is they make antibodies, however you pronounce it. Anyways, they produce antibodies, and what they do is basically, let's say there is a virus that came in. You shoot antibodies at it, and then it sticks onto the surface of that virus, and it makes it neutral because it can't come into a cell if it is covered with antibodies. So it's basically neutral now, and then the macrophage eats that specific virus. And as I said, the plasma cells produce antibodies, and they mutate. So mutate, and the T cells, if the mutated version creates an antibody that was better than before, the T cell encourages that specific plasma cell and sends kill signals to every other plasma cells. They turn into more energy sources, and using those energy sources and some from the outer side, as some other energy sources and stuff, they multiply again and again. And well, this process also takes a lot of energy. That's why, as I said, I'm saying it again, the adaptive immune system is for very hard pathogens to defeat, because it uses a lot of energy. So it's very powerful if you think about it. Plasma cell that produced the best antibody multiplies a bit more until then the helper T cell finds a better one and sends kill signals to every other plasma cells, and this keeps. Actually, I think the plasma cell self-destructs when the antibody that it made wasn't good enough. It self-destructs, and this goes on for a long time until it is perfect until the perfect antibody for fighting the pathogens is produced. So now then what happens, only thing that it does is it just produces a bunch of antibodies to attack the pathogen, and yeah, it makes it neutral and the macrophages eat it, and then it goes on like that. I forgot to mention this in the main video, so I am filming this now. When I was explaining about the T cells and B cells, when I was explaining about the adaptive immune system, the T cell and the B cell are, what they do is when that war, the fighting, when that war ends, the fighting thingy, most of these cells die down. They just die, but self-destruct. But some are left, and they become memory T cells and memory B cells. Or some B cells turn into another sort of B cell, which is, I don't remember what it's called, but what they do is they just sit around producing a little amount of antibodies consistently. So if that same pathogen enters your body, it would get neutralized quickly, so the macrophages can eat it. And what memory T cell and memory B cell does, well, they're just T cells and B cells, but what happens is that it doesn't need a dendritic cell. It just does their job immediately if they meet the pathogen. Yeah, they swim around the blood vessel and they just do their job if a pathogen enters your body right away without any dendritic cell help needed. And let's get on with the video. And now, if it's a bacteria, job well done. But what if it's a virus? Viruses are very small, so macrophages can't really eat it that easily. Well, they can though, but it's a bit harder. And the neutrophils, I don't know about the neutrophils, and the complement systems, I think they have a little bit more of a hard time making holes through the virus because because viruses are very small. But maybe that they do. I don't really remember it. I don't really remember that aspect, but now a virus comes in. Wait a second, that looks like a virus. Let's say this is a virus with 3 hairs on top of its circle thing. Now, this virus comes into your body through maybe that cut I said before. Now, then, well, macrophages starts to devour the viruses, and neutrophils attack them, the complement systems attack them, and the dendritic cells rip them apart and give them to the adaptive system, and now what they do is they find a killer T cell to attack those. Before that, now let's think about killer T cells first. Now, killer T cells, those are T cells too, but now they go to the fighting scene, and now what the virus does is that they go into cells and make the cell not do cell stuff. It makes the cell into a virus factory. So it produces viruses until it explodes, sort of. Well, virus takes hold of the cell and produces a lot of viruses, and then explodes. And those viruses that have been produced flies around and gets into more cells, which explode more and more and more. There's exponential growth. This exponential growth makes growth of the viruses consume your energy and makes you sick. And now what the killer T cell does is to prevent this coming in, the cells have little window thingies. So if a virus is inside, the killer T cell can look into these windows. Now it looks like one of those spinny thingies. These windows that the killer T cell looks into. Now, if there are virus particles, if the killer T cell can see, what those tentacles are for is that it touches the windows, not very window-ish, but windows. It touches it. If they aren't normal and they show to the killer T cell that some ain't right. I mean, some viruses are in there. Virus particles attached to this windows. If that's so, the killer T cell gives chemical signals to the cell that has been infected to self-destruct, kill itself. And that's why it's named killer T cell. And now it doesn't self-destruct like boom. It doesn't explode and let those viruses out. That would be stupid. So what they do is they turn themselves into tiny bubbles which holds the viruses inside, using the outer layer of the cell. They make themselves into bubbles which holds the viruses inside, and macrophages can come in and devour them. Here, as I said, macrophages are very important. And well, now viruses evolved to avoid the killer T cells altogether too. Now what they do is to stop the killer T cells trying to look into the windows of the cells, the viruses pulls the windows in, so makes the cells window thingies, display screen thingies disappear. So, well, pulls them in sort of, and so the killer T cells can't look into the thing, can't look into the cell, so it can't find out that the virus is living in there, multiplying. So what the body of so what humans, or maybe animals altogether, has developed is the natural killer cell. Now, what these do is they basically do what the killer T cell does, but well, they don't look into the window. They don't have time for that. They just examines how much display screens do you have. It has less numbers of display screens or windows or whatever than an average cell would have. It eats it, I think, or I think it gave self-destructing signals too, I think. I might have been wrong. Well, if it finds out that it doesn't have enough windows, basically the cell needs to die. And I think the same thing might have happened. And yeah, in the book the book explained it like this: the natural killer cells are similar to some security guards which wants your passport, and if you don't pull the passport out in 3 seconds, it shoots you in the face. Yeah, so the innate immune system does those things, and the adaptive immune system does these things. Oh, and also another very important aspect. Well, this is supposed to be a human, not Baymax. Well, near your neck somewhere, there's a thing that is big as a chicken nugget. I mean, a chicken wing. And that is called a thymus. And what the thymus does is it produces the T cells and the B cells. Actually, the T cells are produced in the thymus, and the B cells are produced, I think it was in the bone marrow. And the T cells produce these thymuses produce T cells, these T cells, and they go through 3 tests. Now, do they have the do they have the correct aspects that a T cell should have? If not, the thymus kills the T cell that has been produced. Now it goes through another test. The second test is, does the T cell that has been produced communicate well with the other immunity cells? Do they communicate well? If so, it goes through on to the next test. If not so, it dies. And then the final level of test, which is very important too. This is, does the T cell can the T cell adapt to the cells of a human body? So, does it recognize a human body cell? If so, that T cell would attack human body cells, which would make it super bad for you, very unhealthy. A cell in your body attacking yourself, not good. So that T cell also dies. Now, then what is left? A T cell that can adapt to some sort of pathogen, maybe a pathogen that doesn't exist right now, but if it is somehow that pathogen is produced and comes into your body, that T cell would adapt to that specific pathogen and attack it. Well, help cells attack it. And yeah, a thymus is a very important thing in your body. And I think that's basically all that was in the book. Well, I mean, there's much more, but these are the thing that I thought was more important, personally. What the cells do and stuff. And that's all I think I gotta talk about today. So, thank you for watching, and bye. Oh, and I highly encourage you that you read this book. Very fun and nice.